Taylor, what's going on, man? How you doing? Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the show. How you doing today?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. We've talked a little bit here before the show started, and it's really brave of you to come on and share your story while you are in the middle of your rebuilding. And we're going to get into all your story. But before, I wanted to ask, what are your thoughts? Like, because you're so willing to share in this moment where you are, and a lot of people would rather wait till they are done with whatever they're going through to share their stories. How do you feel right now? What's your motivation for wanting to share in this moment where you are?
I think the motivation comes from not being able to talk about it to like anyone really. And I think the more that I get it out, it helps rebuild me. Even like how far down I am right now, it's at least an attempt at a step in the right direction. I guess the biggest part is there are two sides to every story. Not everyone is willing to listen to those two sides. So you might get painted in a way, or somebody else might get painted in a way. So it's good to just kind of get it out there, especially if people are knowing or even like trying to get better in
Mm.
your life.
No, it makes a lot of sense, man. You're working, and we talked about this. Part of the process when you are down bad or just down under and not feeling like there's any light around you is you just have to just take a step. Like, you don't have to figure out the whole journey. It's not, because in the moment you really can't, right? You're going through what you're going through. It's just about trying to figure out what will help you get through the next day and the next step and the next step and the next step. And eventually you start gaining momentum that way. But I just want to say thank you. Thank you for coming on and sharing your story with us and with me. It's very inspiring. It's very inspiring for sure. You shared parts of your story and your journey on the Rebuilding the Beast page. Actually, matter of fact, I think you're one of the first people to write their story. So that was really cool. For anyone that didn't read the posts, can you start from the beginning? Maybe take us back to childhood and how that was, how you grew up.
Okay. So growing up, it was extremely difficult. I lived with my mom, and the typical mother father custody battle. My dad wasn't really around. It wasn't his choice to not be around. He focused on his career and tried to do the custody battle, but we grew up extremely poor. I know a lot of people in this world have had it and do have it way worse than I did. But taking food from the church, my mom drank, she took painkillers. I pretty much raised myself. To give you an example, I guess, like I had to drive her car a bunch when I was like 10 just to make sure she didn't. And ripping painkillers away from her and trying to pour out booze. And it was a very interesting way to grow up. I was absent from our high school more than anyone else because she wouldn't take me, or I had to stay home and take care of her. Like that was horrible. And then once I was able to work, I started paying her bills, and I was like, I don't know, 14, 15. It didn't help me. It did make me strong in the moment. But I think that trying to be strong for so long without dealing with your issues, just putting them, like bottling them up and putting them behind you, or attempting to put them behind you. One day you start standing up for yourself and you're like, all this bad stuff happened. What does it mean? How do I get it out of my head, which is hard, and how to turn into a better person?
It sounds like you were a better person in this case. It sounds like you were working your way through, and you were trying to fill in for lack of a better way to say this question, your mom's inadequacies, right? She had an addiction to painkillers and to alcohol. What was your relationship with her like at this point?
It was it was kind of off and on because like she was nice when she was sober. Like aside from getting, sometimes I got like hit and I was little. I remember climbing. It was one of like the 20 houses that we moved in and out. We got evicted once. I remember climbing out of a bathroom window to get away from her and riding my bike away from the house. And it wasn't until I got fast enough to get away from her that it kind of slowed down and stopped. That was never a good time getting punched or thrown, because I was tiny, man. I got like bullied like crazy because of how skinny I was. um like I was really skinny. I didn't like right now I'm like 6'1" or a little over maybe, I don't know.
So you're getting bullied in school and you coming home to this. What was your safe place at this point in your life?
I didn't really have one. I remember that there was a family that lived down the street, and they were amazing. We're still like really good friends. And then there was this is going to sound weird, but there was a tree at the end of the driveway that I could climb and just sit there and I listened to music. So music was kind of my safe
Mm.
place. And I finally, I'm starting to listen to a lot of more music again. I didn't understand like how bad my depression was from all of those past things, I guess, or situations was, until my wife
Yeah.
actually pointed out that I had lost passion for anything that I liked. I was so focused on trying to do well and not show the emotion towards that in reality it was actually harming my relationship, like with my wife and everyone. Basically, it puts you in a dark place because you think you can't say stuff, you think you're saving somebody but you're not. And then on top of that, I tend to help people a lot, to the point where one of my friends got mad at me for helping people, which was kind of weird. And I think that taking on the burden of a lot of other people, like you need a way to like express it. And if you don't have that, then you're just harming yourself and the people around you again.
So having a tumultuous childhood is tough on people, and they can see it showing up in different areas of their lives. But having to you're still working, you're giving some, you're working and giving the money to your mom. Like you're doing the best you can, as a kid. That's the person who is supposed to be protecting you. It's tough for anybody to recover from a pace where like now you're as a kid, you're now the person protecting them. What was that like for you as a child? Like how did you conceptualize that? Like how did that play out in your mind? Like, did you just see it as your duty at the time?
Yeah, I saw somebody in pain, and
Mm.
it's your mother, so you want to help them. I just did what I could, even though she did so many like random awful things to us. Like, I'll give you one example. One day she just disappeared, and 2 weeks later she came back, and she had gone to Vegas on like some crazy bender thing and ended up getting married to a random person. That person happened to be like an alcoholic druggie too. One time he threw a plate over my head into her china cabinet. So I don't know. I was just trying to protect her, I guess. I didn't really think about it in any other way than, trying to protect family.
Where was
And
your
I
dad the whole
really don't.
time?
He doesn't really know a lot about all this, but he lived at the house I'm at right now, and he would fly from here to LA to work. He had a veterinary clinic out there, so he was flying back and forth like I think it was every week and then like every other week. So he was like insanely busy with work, but again, I didn't tell him about any of that stuff until like I don't even know, 5 days ago. So it's been pretty bottled up for a really long time,
Dang,
and
where,
to the
where
point
was he
where
though? Was he around?
no, he would visit me every now and then. I would fly out to him every now and then. At one point I would fly out like five times a year or something. And then I started spending summers out here when I was like 13. So I'd spend the whole summer here, and he would try to get me to move here, and I wouldn't. And then randomly, when I was 16, I ended up one of my friends. We were in the car, and at 16, I was like, I could see how being around my mom. In at this point, she had been with guy number however many, and he was an alcoholic druggie too. And I was out here on vacation, or it wasn't vacation, it was Christmas vacation, I guess. And I knew that like if I stayed in that environment, that I wouldn't move forward in life at all, because I'm constantly trying to do stuff for her. And then a buddy of mine, a friend, this girl, her and her brother, I'd known them for a long time from here. Uh, and we're driving in the car, we're just listening to music, like all of us, including my dad. And she was like, well, why don't you just move here? I was like, okay. I literally just said, okay. And then I just moved here. And then I've not looked back at all. I hate going back to Ohio.
Did she know what was
It's not
going on in
fun.
your home? Was that why?
Kind of, I guess, but she kind of knew a little bit about it. It was more of like, oh, well, it's nice out here. And I don't think she really thought about it in that way. Like, thank God my dad was and is successful, because my mom wouldn't send me anything. So I had like a small backpack of clothing and didn't even know where I was going to go to school out here. Yeah, that was a radical change. And then she started getting very, I guess, vicious towards me, if that makes sense. Like texting, calling, yelling, I hate you, and just a lot of nonsense.
My
That was
question
not fun.
is, why didn't you why didn't you move in with your dad?
Why didn't I? Or
Yeah.
you mean like now, or like when I was
No,
a kid?
at the time you were a kid. How old are you at the time, by the way, at this point in your life when you move in with your friend?
16.
And so all the while, like you would go
And
visit pops and moms is doing all these things. You didn't feel safe enough, or you didn't want to tell dad, and you didn't want to move in with him. What was the story behind that?
I think I was kind of like afraid of what would happen to my mom, because of all the radical behavior of like the physical altercations. And uh, it, it was hard to understand like my dad. So I didn't want to move in, because he was, well, now he's getting better finally, but he was extremely old school, being hard on me, not like physically or anything like that. Just I wasn't used to that lifestyle, because I wasn't used to having a parent. I don't know. It was just a really difficult situation, trying to leave my mom for someone I didn't really know that well. And he visited a few times, but sometimes, like, I was supposed to come out here for Thanksgiving once, and my mom just got hammered and wouldn't take me to the airport, so I couldn't do anything about it because I was a kid. I don't know. Her behavior was just so sporadic. I got stuck on an airplane once in Minneapolis because there were tornadoes in the area, and she called my cell phone because I finally had one at that point. I think I was in like 8th grade or something. And then she was like, I need to speak to the pilot. Like, she's gonna convince the pilot to fly during tornadoes. So that was embarrassing, getting stuck on a plane that long. But anyway, sorry, I'm just rambling now.
No, it's your story. I want to know the depths of it sometimes. And so I kind of want to just let you speak freely. How do you best deal with a parent who is struggling with addiction? Can you help a parent as a child? How do you cope with that?
I feel like, and I'm going through this right now, because like after my mom's suicide, I drank for like a year. And then every now and then I would dip back into it. And that is definitely not the right way to go, obviously. And it's hard not to, like, after you start that process, it's hard not to, when something bad happens, like, oh, I'm just gonna, numb the pain. When you're a kid with somebody that is addicted to something, you can't really do anything except for make the best out of the situation. Actually, at one point, she kept drinking so much that she wouldn't get out of bed. She didn't have a job. We didn't have food. We didn't have money. What I did was I walked to local bars, local gas stations, local liquor stores, and showed them her picture and asked them not to sell her anything. I don't even know how old I was, 13 maybe, when I did that. And they responded like, why is this kid in a liquor store? And why is he asking me to not sell alcohol to his mom? Some of them were concerned for me, but I was like, just don't get her in trouble. I'm just asking you to not sell to her. But then she would find out ways. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand about like addiction, or well, basically just addiction, or if like a suicide. I know this is really difficult to talk about, but if somebody is gonna try to do that, the worst thing in my mind, like that or alcohol or heroin even or whatever, the worst thing in my mind is when people try to control you. So when you're trying to get out of it, like it took me so long to get beyond my mom's thing. And like I said, I did back and drink too much at times for sure. But when people constantly accuse you, like you're drunk, you're doing this, you're doing that, and when you're not too. So last year, I took 90 days off of drinking, and
Mm.
like no one noticed. So in my mind, it was like, well, why am I not drinking? Because like, what's the point? And I think the best way to think about it is like just doing it for yourself. And I was thinking about what everyone else was thinking. And I wasn't rebuilding myself. I was just, trying to convince myself through others. And right now, this process is starting over again. And everything that's happened in the past, well, since April, it's really, really opened my eyes. And I've been put in incredibly tough situations. And it makes it easier to understand addiction, I guess. She had a major issue. She would never own up to it ever. And you have to own up to it. I'm owning up to it right now.
It sounds like even when it comes to this, and when it comes to drinking or drugs or anything, I think it's tough because a lot of people they're trying to cope with something. And one of the toughest things to do with anything
Totally agree.
is to not look at it, right? Because what are we're trying to avoid it. And so you avoid it by getting on something else that will distract you from it. But just like
Hmm.
with anything else, if you try to avoid something, it just grows, right? It's kind of like the analogy of being a kid, right? That monster under your bed, it just got bigger and bigger and bigger the more. And then someday your parent like, yo, look under the bed. And it's not that it's nothing there. It's just this idea that if I told you not to think about a pink elephant, the only thing you could think about is a pink elephant. That's the
True.
reason why addiction works, right? It works for people because they continue to try to use something to avoid it. And it's not me saying like, yo, it's not, it's sometimes it's necessary for you to get through what you're getting through. But I do know that being on a substance is not something that long term is beneficial for you. So for me, it's not a judgment. It's just more of it's a, I feel compassion for you. I feel compassion for anybody who is going through this stuff. I feel compassion and empathy for your mom while she was going through it. And so part of it is for us is to try to figure out how to help, how to talk. And I'm really proud of you for being open about your journey, about the things that you're going through.
Thank you.
Um, Unfortunately, 3 years ago you lost your mom. What can you tell us about that?
Hmm. Uh, so I was trying to work at this car dealership selling cars, which I do not recommend that. Um, uh, it's just constant. the I was at work, I was getting texts from my mom, and she got herself into this situation where somebody convinced her to move to Minnesota because he was like some, I don't know, tech guru, which he wasn't. I researched him. And what had happened was she moves up there and he just would be like, "Oh, I'm going to teach you all these things. I'm going to do it." Wouldn't teach her anything. And she started to pay for his stuff. She ran completely out of money. So she was asking me for money and I didn't have any money. And then she started texting weird stuff for about like a week or something, or two, I guess, about like suicide and just like the subtle hints of, take care of my dog. And it's like, what? Just, I don't know, really random hints. And I didn't take her serious because she had threatened it prior, like a few times. And I knew she was probably drinking or whatever. Somehow she managed to get enough money to go back to Ohio and live in the house with my brother. And
That's
she didn't have a cell phone, so I had no idea what was going on. I was talking to him, and she was in Ohio for 3 days. The morning that it happened, she asked my brother to use his cell phone to call me, but he had to go to work. So he's like, "No, I can't. Like, I have to go to work right now." So he came home from work. I got a phone call from him, and I knew exactly what had happened. I don't know how, but I was driving home from work and I saw his name on my phone and I was like, I know exactly what went down. And turns out that's exactly what happened. It took me a while to pull over and even think to understand what was going on. So my brother found her on the back porch and she had shot herself in the chest. I had to call him like 4 times just to like understand that I even heard that because it was so unreal. And then he was going through tough times, so obviously it wasn't my wife at the time actually. I think she was my fiance. I get home and I tell her and she just fell to the ground because she never met her and talked to her on the phone a few times, and we're supposed to get married, so obviously my mom would be a part of the wedding. And that really messed with her too, big time, because like crying all night next to somebody you're supposed to be supporting and protecting. So you're just a numb person. You're neglecting, all of your wife's feelings and what she's doing because all you're doing is focusing on negative stuff. And then 3 days after it happened, actually, I got a letter in the mail from her, and I knew exactly what it was because why else would that happen? But my wife, well, fiance, whatever, she handed me the envelope and it was a 9-page suicide letter, like blaming me, blaming my dad, blaming my brother, like saying that she wasn't going to be a part of our wedding. She just knew it. So what I'm guessing is her mental health declined unbelievably, like, in a very rapid fashion. Carrying around that suicide letter was horrible. If I'm going to give anyone advice, which I don't know if I can, I mean, I'm still alive, right? Would be don't ever blame yourself for that, ever, because it'll eat you up inside. And it's really hard for me to get rid of that letter. And I don't know why I did this, but I put it in my glove box because I didn't, after I read it, I put it in there. And I don't know why, but I carried it around forever. And like right now, I think it's at my house that I can't even go to because of the divorce, but it'll just eat you up. And if you don't deal with it, like I'm still, emotional about it. And the biggest saving grace that I've had in this entire process has been my wife, for sure. She was strong. kind, giving, just unbelievable. If you don't take care of the people that are willing to put up with your depression or your abuse, like substance abuse or like drinking or whatever, then they will leave you. They will get rid of you. And focusing on others, but also taking care of yourself as much as possible, because a strong you can't be a strong person for your wife or your, a friend or anything like that. So that has probably been the biggest thing. It still eats me up, like obviously right now, but you just have to get your emotions out there and start to heal. You'll end up in a situation like me.
I will say that like everybody's doing the best that they can, and I'm saying that for you first. Like you have to understand that what you have gone through is it is a very difficult thing for anybody to deal with. And dealing with it as a child and the trauma that comes with that and into adulthood and then having this tragic thing that happened a few years ago, losing your mom, that will wreck a lot of people. The fact that you're still standing, you are somebody who I consider a beast because it's just you got to give yourself some grace. It's hard. It's a tough thing for people to deal with. Now, I I hear you say you got the support of your wife. What are some of the things that she did at the time that helped you during your time of grief?
Well, repeated times of grief, I guess. She was just there for me. She was so strong and generous, and like she's a nurse, so she worked very hard, supported us, and she's just been the biggest heart and kindest person I have literally, no offense, ever met. She wears her heart on her sleeve, and she I don't know, she like would cook or remind me to do things. And throughout the years, I would try to improve, and then I would get bad again, and then I would try to improve, and then I would get bad again. She like stood by me through all this nonsense that she definitely didn't deserve. Since I met her, she has grown into such an amazingly beautiful soul, even though when I met her, she totally was anyway, but she constantly kept going and building herself. Without that, I would be in a way worse state right now, but I don't know how that's possible. But she just kept going strong and getting stronger and, staying healthy and just doing stuff for me all the time. And I obviously took a lot of that for granted, because when you're with somebody, you think that, in my mind, I guess, they're there for you no matter what. You don't always take into consideration the ramifications of what you're doing to them, like mentally or whatever. She was pretty much my guiding light. I know we're going through a difficult thing, but she's still a guiding light. Having somebody like that in your life, don't ever take them for granted.
So you said that she was a strong rock for you in the time when you were going through, the tough stuff that people go through when they lose somebody, right? And like I said, be gentle with yourself because you're going through a lot of tough things. For partners out there who are with somebody who is grieving, what are some of the things that she did, like some specific things that you felt like were things that help you? Because like depression and recovery from depression, recovery from trauma or loss, it's not linear. Like you don't just get to just start going up. Like it's you go, you fall, you go, you fall, and it's just you just got to keep going, and you just keep, eventually the falls start getting smaller and smaller and smaller over time. And then this, the goal is just to keep going. What are some of the things that a partner can do to help somebody who is grieving?
Honestly, just being there for them. And I think, honestly, that's a good point or question. I mean, I think the biggest thing that anyone can do for somebody who's grieving is continue to communicate. And, you know, the worst part is like trying to tell them like, oh, this isn't worth it type of thing. Communication is everything. And, even getting into like therapy together, I don't know, being there and just being open and not bottling up feelings at all. Like either person in the relationship, don't bottle it up, because it will build and it will end up imploding. Actually, that's probably the best way I can describe it, is just the bottling, because the more you bottle it up, the more you're going to hold on to everything. Obviously, it'll get worse and worse over time, like way worse, because you're just holding on to all this emotion. And you think that bottling is actually helping the person next to you, or the person that's trying to help you, or your spouse or whatever. It's harming the situation immensely, because you just hang on to it, and then you just kind of become like a shell. So I think that would be probably the route that I would go.
After the ordeal, you say you shut down, and those are your words. You said it caused you to start losing the relationship with this, your fiance at the time, who was a strong pillar for you. Now let's reverse engineer a little bit. If you had to go to this time, the people who are going through grief, who hear you and you're speaking to them directly, how do they then either let their partners help them or be more vocal? What kind of advice would you give them for them to be able to support their partners who are supporting them? Because it's a two-way street, and that you got to let the other person help you as well.
Yeah, of course. As far as like the support system, helping the person that's helping you, just don't lose sight of goals that you have in life, I guess. Even dreams that are outlandish, don't lose your hope in that other person. Supporting the person that's supporting you, don't lose sight of why you're like in a marriage, in a relationship or a friendship or anything like that. Don't lose sight of that, because that is what will keep you going. When I would look at my wife, I'd be like sad about like the suicide or anything like that. But what I needed to do was push myself to get out of that mindset and make sure that they are well taken care of. Don't bottle it up, but you know, take care of stuff you have to go on. Don't make excuses. Don't bottle it, and communicate. Somebody who's helping you go through something and they come up with a strategy to, you know, facilitate that help for you. Don't reject it. Don't think that they're coming down on you like therapy or something like that. Just be like, okay, I get it. I'm going through a lot, and I think it'd be good to talk to somebody. Don't be like, oh, I'm not doing that. I think that's probably key. I didn't reject it at that time, but like she brought up therapy before all this crap, and I was like, no, I don't want to do that, because like I've been to counselors my whole life because of the custody battles. And when I moved out here, my dad made me go see a Christian counselor, which I still talk to him. He actually called while we're doing this, and he's been awesome. But he did that because my dad my dad thought I was like a troubled child, which obviously mentally probably, but I didn't drink or stay out late or anything like that. But when my wife brought it up, I was just brought back to all those memories of going to counseling and being forced to do it, that I was like, I am so sick of going and doing that stuff, because it was always like a forceful thing. If you're wondering if I'm regretting not looking at her and saying, I would love to do that, like with you, like couples therapy or whatever. If I stopped and quit thinking about myself and thought about her and our marriage, then this whole thing wouldn't even be happening, because we'd probably be in therapy right now. So that's kind of why I rejected it. And I'm regretting it immensely.
You're going to therapy now.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
that
I am.
what has helped you get some clarity, get some peace, and continue to help you grow on this journey? And talk about rebuilding, but is that the thing that's helping you cope right now?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's definitely helping me cope, and oh, if I could, save my marriage, I will do anything that I can to do that. That's kind of helping me cope. But prayer and being active, trying to eat because I've lost I've lost a lot of weight already since talking to my dad a little bit. But when I bring up past stuff, he just gets really mad and walks away because he can't cope with a lot of the stuff that happened in the past because I think he might feel like responsible for a lot. But I'm kind of like one of those people that I worry a lot. So prayer is and listening to music and just trying to get back on my feet. I don't know. That's more of like a godly thing. The just the prayer. I mean, I feel like without him for sure, then I I wouldn't be around, but not be doing anything to help the situation whatsoever. So that is actually the biggest thing that's helped, and just people to talk to. I have a couple friends in Wisconsin, and there's one in Ohio, and they've been talking me through it kind of. That's been a huge thing for me. I'm a big information guy, so when I don't have all the details, it literally, I hate it. And that's kind of what I'm going through right now. And then I talked to the counselor, and he said, buckle up because everything's going to get a lot worse. This is not the worst part. It's to be able to speak with my wife and try to work as hard as possible. But I know that when I see her at court or whatever, I'm probably going to cry because that's hard. I guess, but the biggest way is in my mind. I know that if I don't get up and do the best for me at the moment, like becoming the stronger person that I used to be when I was like a kid, then nothing's gonna change for the positive. So why not do it?
So you mentioned that you struggled with depression and drinking heavily after you lost your mom. How do you find a way out of that? And how are you doing right now with that?
Right now, I'm not drinking at all because after you go through something like drinking heavily for so long, and then every now and then you drink heavy like again and then again because it's like that roller coaster that you're talking about. You're trying to edge up and go forward. I'm currently sober, which is nice, but after you go through something like that and the people around you see how bad you're like drinking, or like they accuse you constantly. So even if you're not drinking, they'll accuse you of it. And like I will admit, like I've done the roller coaster thing, and it I've done that, and the only way to make it better and make it go away and to have people not accuse you and gain that personal mindset of knowing that I'm not drinking or anything like that. You just gotta stop doing it. That's why I stopped. I mean, and this is kind of one of those weird things. Like going through this process, I've had friends or whoever, they think that like that tough love that doesn't work on me. So they would be like, she's never coming back. She left you. She's gone. And if it meant that I could, you know, get back together or improve the situation whatsoever, the getting back together thing is like the biggest thing on my list, I guess. But I need to keep that hope to keep going. And if it means that I don't drink for the rest of my life, so be it. Like it's worth it to lose the love of your life and go through all this past nonsense. It really makes you think like, oh my gosh, like you are the one destroying everything because of, any actions. So like I said, if I don't drink for the rest of my life, I don't really care. Totally worth it for even that slim chance.
A lot of people, there's people out there who will probably hear this message and think, wow, this is what I'm doing to my relationship. This is what I'm doing to the person that's taking care of me. This is what I'm doing to somebody who's supporting me. So that message is really important, that you have to like you have to take care of those people as well. I know that when you're in it, it's hard, but you have to also understand that there's people who are trying to support you. Let them be there for you. Also understand that there are people who also need you to be there for them as well. So I'm grateful that you shared that message. Do you have any advice? So I'm sure there's people who have lost, you know, a friend or a parent or a loved one to suicide. What advice can you give them who has sadly gone through something like that?
Somebody who's gone through something like that, I would say the more that you dwell on it, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. Try to find a way to get to the point of healing, because obviously it still bothers me. And I just, I, there comes a point in time where you kind of just need to let it go. It's so hard to do. So much stuff reminds me of my mom, and cleaning up your life definitely helps that. Just push for just that ounce of hope that things are going to get better. And if you don't self improve and stop thinking about it like all the time, or even, at bouts, if you don't self improve, you're not helping anyone around you, and you're not definitely not helping yourself. So I would say just work on the best. This is going to sound cliche, but work on the best version of yourself. Make sure you're staying active. Exercise helps a ton because of endorphin release, and just learn how to let go. And if you have a coping mechanism, like for me right now, it's listening to music and, working. Make sure you don't dive into something so hard that you're ignoring the obvious depression that is probably going on. But please don't go towards any substance abuse whatsoever, alcohol or whatever you want. All that's going to do is destroy your life. I've seen it firsthand, and all it does, like getting hammered on a weekend or whatever you want to call it, and trying to recover, like all of your, I don't know, your body just feels so much worse, and it drives you into a deeper depression. So that's why I made the choice to quit. I probably made it too late, but don't let it be too late to quit.
You made the choice. You made the choice, and I'm proud of you for that. You know, there's a metaphor that I heard in what you said earlier. It's you said that you still carry that 9-page letter today. I wonder, in the midst of, and this is just me thinking, you said that it's best to let it go. That's the advice that you give people who are going through this. I wonder, in your own situation, what that letter means in that context of letting it go.
Yeah, and I like that too. I did kind of like a little experiment, I think last year, where I spent like a weekend. I know this is ridiculous, but it takes longer than a weekend. I spent a weekend with a friend and tried to just let it out, and it helped a lot. It really did. Like we drove out in the middle of the hills. It's so remote out here. I drove out, I let it out, and then I had him hold on to the letter for a while. Then I drank more and asked for the letter back, and then I just held on to it, which is a mistake. It's like holding on to the last thing you have of someone, but technically memory should just be that, and that hope to get better. But was going to burn the letter, and I don't know why I didn't let it happen, but I think I might, burn it, just get it out of there, because you're gonna, if you get a letter like that, every now and then you're gonna be like, oh, I need to read it. I mean, once you have that clarity after reading it when you're in a sober state, or like you were able to let some of it go, get rid of it. There's no need for it because you're going to constantly keep going into it. I haven't read it since I can't even remember the last time I read it. And but once I get a hold of it again, because it's at my our marital home, once I get a hold of it, I'm going to burn it because I think that that would help a lot. And that's a good point bringing that up. It's like holding on to that is like holding on to instead of the best memories that you had, it's holding on to the absolute worst one.
I'm proud of you for thinking about it that way. I think about what the letter says because you said you're holding on to a memory of someone, the last memory of someone in an object. But then if that object is self-deprecating or is making you feel guilty or is making you feel depressed, or then I wonder in terms of your recovery, how you get to that next step from while you hold on to that letter. That's just a question that for you to think about. My last thing is if you could say something to your mom right now, what would it be? Because I believe that people never fully leave us. That connection remains. So if there was a way for you to connect and make peace, to say that I understand or I'm sorry or thank you, any of the things that make you or help you find peace, help you reconnect.
What would I say? You know, thank you for the good times that were had. Thank you for actually trying to provide the best way that you knew you could. I'm sorry that everything happened the way it did. And, you know, I miss her. That memory kind of has been coming back. Yeah, I just miss you. I love you. And like, watch over me, I guess. Um, one random thing I just thought of, uh, my childhood was, you know, weird and crazy, but I didn't understand it until like in the past year. I suppressed like years of stuff that I went through, and I'm starting to, that's kind of hard. And I'm getting all those memories back. But you, I mean, you get to get the good ones, but you get the really, really horrible ones too. So yeah, I love you. I miss you. Watch over me, please. And thank you for even trying, I guess would be the best way I could put it.
One of the best things that somebody gets, best advice that someone gave me a while ago was that hurt people. And if you look at life from that perspective, you understand that when somebody is doing something that's harmful to you or harmful to themselves, they're hurt and they're just trying to get through life. They're trying to get through the best way they know how. So when you're thinking about, I think this was the advice I got. So when you're thinking about this person who is hurting, the best advice I would give is to think about the person in that sense. Somebody who's hurting, who needs a safe place to lay their head, who is just trying to hide from life's troubles. And now that she's passed and gone on, she's happy, she's at peace, and she's probably looking down and saying, "Wow, the strength that you've showed, right? The person that you are and you are becoming, and you're constantly working on yourself. All these things will work for your good." Right? I say that, when you're in the middle of a really tough situation, everything can come back. Everything you've lost can always come back, right? But the goal is
Oh yeah.
to use this pain that you're going through to become a better person,
Mm-hmm.
to heal yourself. Because at the end of the day, whatever you are, you attract. And so when you become that better person, you can get that love back. You can get that feeling back. But it's on you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not on anybody else. That's what this process is for us in life is we always feel like, wow, like this thing, yeah, but like it happened and it's happened. and it's come and gone, and it's hard. I'm not saying it's not. Trust me, I can't fully comprehend everything that you're going through, but my job is to encourage you to know that you are protected. You're still here. And the more you continue to do the work, you have gone through the worst parts and some of the worst things, and you're still here. You have a chance to start today to be better tomorrow. And that's just the way I think about this process is just we can always take steps today. We can always figure out how can I be better? Okay, I lost the love of my life because of what I went through. Damn, this sucks and it hurts. What is that pain telling you to do now? How do you then wake yourself up from that slumber of, wow, like what I was doing was actually hurtful? Now, how can I build myself to where I'm not hurting people with my pain anymore? That's what that pain is a reminder for all of us. Like we're all being reminded to take our pain and do something better with it, to become better people with it, you know? So
Mm.
I just encourage you to not look at it as a loss. I want you to look at it as something that is reminding you. It's a reminder. It's like, man, like let's go, let's build, let's be better, let's do better, you know? So I'm grateful that you shared your story, and you're incredibly inspiring person. It's amazing that you are still able. You're there helping your dad. Like you're still able, even in the middle of the things that you're going through, you're still able to be there for somebody else. So I don't want you to look at it like, wow, like I'm so messed up. I did no, you're doing the best you can with what you have gone through. I'm just here to encourage you to take what you've gone through and not look at it as a complete loss. It's not. Everything you've lost in this life, you can get it back tenfold. Now it's on you to be the person that attracts that tenfold, because where you are right now and the things that you're going through, that's what's, that's the where you are right now, that person is strong enough. The things that you've gone through to get to this point, this made you tougher, it's made you stronger. Now, how do we build from here? So just keep heart. I'm sorry about the situation with your wife, but it's a very good reminder. Every time I go through a loss, it's a reminder for me. I'm like, wow, how did I contribute to this? What did I do? How did the things that I've gone through, how can I heal from them? These are questions that I ask myself still till today, myself. Like, what have I done to be in the position I'm in? These questions I continue to ask. And when you ask the question, how can I solve this problem? How can I be happier? I know that it's not easy. I know it's a hard time, but I will say to you that it's possible. It's possible to come back. It's possible. And it's hard when you're in the middle of the moment, but I don't want you to sit here and think that you're helpless. You're not. You're somebody that can get up today and take one step. That's all you have to do is take a step, and you will attract the thing that you want. I promise you that. But it's time to start thinking
Yeah,
about the things that you want and thinking about who you can be to attract those things. You know what I mean?
I- agreed. I think that sobriety was a good first
I'm proud of you.
step, and thank you. Thank you. It means a lot, actually. And then going to therapy and just making sure that I do take care of my dad because his hip surgery. But yeah, no, I hear you, man. I totally agree.
Thank you for sharing your story with me, man. I appreciate you. That's it was a very heavy, deep episode, and even in my heart, I just like my heart is right here. It's just like I feel for you and I feel this situation. But I also know that in the moment of the deepest, darkest discomfort, you said earlier to me that you hit rock bottom and you're just now just coming out of rock bottom. I agree with that sentiment in the sense that you can go up from here. You can go up from here where you are right now. And if you start focusing on going up, you will. I'm excited to see where this goes and how far you go, because it's there's time. We have time. We have the gift of time, and there's things that you can do right now to get back and to be that person for other people that can help other people. So I'm excited for you on this journey, man.
Thank you so much, man. I really
For sure.
appreciate that. And no problem for sharing the story. I was kind of excited to get it out.
Thank you. Thank you. Know what we can do? Are you a praying man?
Yeah.
Let's pray together. Father Lord, thank you for this very heavy, deep conversation that we've had about pain, about loss, about struggles. I know that in this life, a lot of times we want you to take away all our pain and we want you to to make us happy all the time. But on the other hand, as someone who has gone through pain, I also understand that on the other side of pain, there is joy, there's happiness, there's strength. Father, continue to show and help Taylor as he is on his journey as well. Protect him, guide him, give him the strength, show him the light, show him the way, bring people around him to support him because at the end of the day, we can't do this by ourselves. We need you. Lord, thank you for this fellowship. Thank you for this ability to share this story. I hope that my hope and my prayer is that it gets to the people it needs to get to so that they will be inspired and they will know that there's light at the end of the tunnel. In his name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much for
Yo,
that.
thank you, man. I appreciate you. I just was feeling for you the whole time, and I was like, I don't like. I was like trying to get my arms around the energy, and yo, I feel like you'll be okay. You'll be okay. Take the time that you need out there in the mountains, but then when you come back to, I call it reality, but when you come back into your world, take that energy. Start finding ways to build momentum in the way that you, in the direction that you want to go in, whether it's writing down the things that you feel like will make you happy, the ways that you can act to make yourself feel happy, to make yourself feel productive, to make yourself feel like you're progressing in the direction that you want to go, which is ultimately happiness, right? So I'm excited, man. Let's keep talking. Let's keep communicating. I'm here for you always. All right.